Billy here. Well, I used to be a Rolling Stone. I used to be a Rolling Stone, you know. And if the cause was right, I'd leave to find an answer on the road. Okay. That that sounds like Elton John, right? Well, no, not really. But Philadelphia Freedom. I used to be a Rolling Stone, you know, and if the cause was right, I'd leave to find an answer on the road. I used to be a heartbeat for someone, but the times have changed. The less I say, the more my work gets done. Sounds like activism, doesn't it? Well, that's a good thing, I guess. Depends on what you're being an activist for. But we're talking about Philadelphia Freedom, and so is Elton John, but I think he's talking about something different than what we're talking about. We're talking about Phileo now today. Yeah, that's translated as love in your Bible. Philadelphia is named after Phileo, the city of brotherly love. Phileo's brotherly love, family love, natural love. Friendship. Well, friendship's a kind of love. It can be. You have to separate all these things. We just have one word in English, as I said in my last video, for things that there's several different words in other languages, especially Greek. Eros, we covered that. Yeah, fairly well. And now we're going to look at brotherly love. Friendship is a part of that. If you're Eros, you're focused on a person, and your focus is on, well, your interest is the person, it's his or herself. But with friendship, you're focused on a thing, a common goal, or a common interest. Bikers are focused around motorcycles, or they used to be. Now it's some sort of accessory lifestyle that you buy into. It is a totally different thing. It's not so much of a passion anymore, or the organic. If there's ever been organic bikers, the whole thing was media manufactured anyway back in the 50s, but that really changed in the 90s with your yuppie bikers, rubbies, and all that. The whole scene changed, and then the Outlaws. I watched them all turn into undercover cop clubs. But anyway, they were focused on the motorcycle. The motorcycle was the idol, I guess. It was the focus, and you'd meet people, hang out with them. You might not necessarily have a lot in common with them otherwise, or even like them very much, because there's huge economic strata. Even in the old days, there were people that were wealthy and successful that wanted to be outlaws, and then there were people that were dirt poor working at a factory and scrape enough money if they live very austerely to get what scooter together, you know, a nice looking sled, and that's their god, that's their whole life. I've known people like that, and tramps that lived on the road, that lived on their freaking motorcycle. I was one of those a lot. But there's a fellowship, and they branch off into different tribes, different clans, different clubs, and they have little wars with each other, all kinds of interesting things over territory. It's a whole microcosm of society, a subculture, or it used to be. But I never really had fellowship with people. I knew some bikers in clubs, and they'd invite me to their club, and I hang out. I even was offered sponsorship a couple of times. They liked me. I liked hanging out with them, but I didn't really want to join those kinds of organizations. I did, but I didn't, you know. But after my religious epiphany, I changed direction, and I found a bunch of bikers that used to be outlaws. A lot of them were in serious clubs that they changed direction in their life too. We all hung out together, and it was great. I mean, there was fellowship there. We had a blast, and we helped each other, and we grew, everybody knew their place in it and had a place in it. It was great for a while. Things like that never seem to last. But one thing I remember, and this describes what I think what I'm talking about. We all went to a run. It was a minor run. It was in Houston. There's a bunch of us. Had been 6 or 7 of us there. And we're supposed to be, there for people, and we help a lot of people with serious freaking problems in other clubs and stuff. And they knew us. They knew that's what we were. We were like the monk bikers. And if you had a spiritual issue or a problem or something real serious, nobody help you, you'd go to one of us. And we were always making ourselves available for people. One time we showed up this run, and I don't know, we kind of forgot. We all just hung out together, and we stayed in a little circle and told stories and talked and laughed and stuff. And they get this cadence go, these waves, somebody's talking and somebody chips in something else, and then everybody's laughing. And this is going on. I kind of started noticing this talking and then laughter, genuine heartfelt laughter, and then talking and laughter. Brother Tiny said, hey man, don't be obvious about it, but look around. I want you to see something. So we all kind of looked around. The other clubs and the other groups of people were all off in different groups, and they're all staring at us like this. I'm not kidding. They all had this expression on their face. It was striking. And everybody saw it and everybody noticed it. So some religious people told you were doing your job. You were supposed to be going out evangelizing people and showing them the gospel. It's exactly what we were doing. We didn't even know it. We were enjoying each other's company and fellowshipping so much. We didn't even notice it till Brother Tiny pointed out. We look around. They were all like little kids with no money looking through the window of a toy store or a candy store. I'm not kidding. They all had that look on their face. They're like, they were just dumbstruck watching us have a good time because we were supposed to be Christians. We didn't drink anymore or do drugs, and we weren't supposed to be messing around with squirting women and that sort of thing. And we try to be an example and showing what's possible, and they were looking at us like, it got really solemn there, what the hell? Because it was real intense. They were all focused on us. A lot of them had that hurt on their faces. I guess they didn't have that in their clubs. I'm sure they did sometimes, but they were shocked that we did, I think, and it really struck them. When you know the truth and you live the truth, especially as a group, it automatically does things. You don't even know what you do. Anyway, that was just an experience I had that I thought was remarkable. Thought I'd share it because I think it relates to Philadelphia freedom. Really, I'd live and breathe this Philadelphia freedom. When you become a Christian, whether you walk down the aisle at a Billy Graham concert, or if you're, caught by some evangelist and told the gospel. I've seen it happen to a lot of people. A lot of people, they get saved, and in prison, people get saved in prison. And as soon as they get out, they ditch all that and go back to what they were doing. I don't know. If you have a religious epiphany and you change the direction of your life permanently and seek the truth, try to find out what you're supposed to be doing and try to serve God and try to do what you think you're supposed to and find out what you're supposed to be doing. If you do that, you're a member of the church. You are Israel. You are God's people. You're adopted into the kingdom of heaven. whether you're in some place where you can actually sign up and join an actual human organization that presents itself as a church, and a lot of them do that aren't, you're a member, you're part of the family. Should be fellowship. Trouble that us guys had back in the 80s. We had all these strips in our churches in Houston. They're old school hardcore Baptist, and then there are people that got into this name it, claim it, prosperity and discipleship stuff, and they didn't like to see somebody like us go through the door. I hung out in churches, and I was very purposely made to feel unwelcome in some of them. Well, you don't need to get a haircut and shave and dress properly if you're going to come to church. Well, yeah, you have your rules and you have your social criteria for a cultus or for a subculture for a family. You can have rules. That's good. I found one I fit in with was with a bunch of other bikers, and we had our own church, and it was good. And then some churches accepted us, and that was good too. We were invited to black churches and black communities. I mean, real get down. And the Lord said to me. I mean, the traditional black churches, they loved us. They liked us to come to their churches, and we loved fellowshipping with them. We didn't have a hell of a lot in common with those people, but it was great. They are what they are, or we are what we were, but we were both Christians. I see all these systems people like to say, I have many black friends. Yeah, I'm sure you do. They're vetted. If they live in your gated community, then they had they've got a good credit rating, so they've been dusted with a little white powder so you can hang out with them. Virtue signal. You ever hang out in a black church? You ever been invited to one? You ever go to a barbecue? You ever hang out with the guys, old school factory workers, in the inner city that hang out in the parking lot and drink beer afterwards? Yeah, that's fellowship, man. That's having black friends. They are what they are. I am what I am, but we respected each other and we had a freaking blast. They're funny as hell. Holy crap, are they funny. They're fun to be around. One of them that I hung out with after work, there's several of us that sit around and drink beer for 2 to 3 hours after work every night in the parking lot, and one of them hated white people. He was radical, but we got along great. We respected each other, and I enjoyed his company. He was a trip. Does that make sense to you? Fellowship is weird, man. These people that I hung out with, these Christian bikers, some of them were, especially in the later days, we started getting kind of famous, and then people came in with money that they wanted to play, and the powers that be, the prez, he liked that shit, he'd make exceptions for them and make exceptions for their behavior and kind of let them exploit other people. It was okay because, they contributed a lot. Like I said, stuff like that never lasts. Human bureaucracy. The church has lasted, though. It's not perfect. It's a bureaucracy too, especially the Orthodox. Russian bureaucracy, the worst kind. But I think it's had a hand in preserving things to an extent. And they let all kinds of people play too. And they're no different than the group I was with was. They respect people more if they have a lot of money. I think they have orders and rules against that, but still it happens. But fellowship, you have something in common. You have Christ in common. You have testimony in common. You have a life that's turned around in common. Or maybe you didn't have to turn around. Maybe you were born and raised in the church, you made all the right decisions, and you're cool. That's good too. I really respect that. I found that people like that really don't want to hang out with me for some reason, but some of them do. Some of them are great. All come from different perspectives and different backgrounds, different socioeconomic strata. But you have something in common, like motorcycles, only a lot better. And it can include lifestyle things too, if they're kosher, if they're not, sinful. There's no social criteria that excludes people in Christianity. I think that was, Paul was talking about. There's neither Greek nor Jew nor barbarian well, everybody that wasn't Greek is a barbarian, as I understand it, but men and women, God is no respecter of persons. There's all kinds of things, and you don't have to become an Englishman to become a Christian. You didn't have to become a Jew first to become a Christian. There were people that trying to foist that off on people in the first century church, and Paul said, beware of the Judaizers. They never quit. There's a lot of them still out there. I have people I interact with, and I respect them, but they want to insist on this new faux Jew thing where you have to have all the words, and no, it's not classes, it's Shoah, and they prop themselves up with all this nomenclature and everything. And then there were people doing that in the churches around Houston. They'd start obeying all the dietary laws and looking down their nose at people that didn't. Oh no, I'm not condemning you, of course. The gospel isn't something that dictates your culture and how you dress and everything else. It's a cultural thing. Now there is things against things that are led to. I mean, I don't even make sense. I'm babbling now, but yeah, not being lewd. You shouldn't walk into church if you come from the trans culture with your fishnet stockings and spike heels and makeup and you're a dude. That would disrupt the spirit, and you probably should get thrown out for that. But then again, there's churches that can deal with it, I guess. I had to go where I was welcome and not go where I wasn't welcome. But, you can't stay in that stuff. I mean, some of it is just provocations against nature, and that's not Christian. You can't do that and still say you're a Christian. Maybe it takes a while for that stuff to slide off before you come around, but to not make any effort to try to warp Christianity to fit that rather than the other way around, it's which one's important, the truth or what you want to do? I got off on a rabbit trail. We're supposed to be talking about Phileo, but I think I described it pretty well with my story. I'm a member of God's kingdom. I can't hardly find a church that, I really want to be a part of, because I'm a nomad, baby. That's how I make my money. I can't stay in one place permanently. I can't and I have to work a lot of Sundays too. But I like to go occasionally. I haven't had communion in ages, and they have a lot of places that won't give it to me because they have to know you real well. Well, that's understandable too. It's community. You should have enough discernment to know whether a stranger should have it or not. If you hear from God, I think you would. But a lot of people have bureaucratized it and made a book of rules. That's okay. Fellowship. You're part of a fellowship. You're part of a family. And you might not like your other family members, but still, you got to make it work. You have, to demand respect. You can't let people disrespect you and put you in a little box. Just like in a family. If you do that, it's not going to be good. But you have to, in love, try to work things out. And you got to find the place in the family where you fit, because it's a big family with a lot of different cultures and a lot of different focuses, just like families in a nation, a kingdom. It's a nation, it's a kingdom. And there are all kinds of families in that kingdom. Maybe you're a nomad like me, you need to find one. Or maybe you can establish your own if you got a little group of people. Possibilities are amazing, but it's good. Fellowship is good. I'll never forget that. We were just standing around telling stories and laughing and enjoying each other's company. And some of these guys were real fuck-ups too. I mean, some of them were but they had a place. And they belong there. I don't know if I told the story about one guy we had. He was not a real sharpest tool in the shed. I wasn't in on this. A bunch of them were riding back from a run out in Central Texas, and they're riding in a group, real close. I mean, we'd ride like like the Angels. The other Outlaws that was kind of a point of contention with that, you know, because we ride wheel to wheel and peg to peg in a real tight group and then float along, you know, like that. And anyway, this guy, let's call him Sparky, he dropped off because there's a dude hitchhiking. So everybody stops, wait for him. And you sit there and talk to that guy for a while. Then he came up, he didn't pick him up, he came up to the group and told them, well, you know, the preacher said that, you know, sometimes we entertain angels unawares, and I stopped to see if that was an angel. He was such an earnest guy. A lot of dumb people are great because they have no guile. He's like a kid. I think he was kind of retarded, but oh, we love the guy. And he told this story, you know. He was, well, I asked him. I said, whoa, are you an angel? And he said, no, I'm a dude. And so I left. He actually did that. Well, he got to thinking, you know, he believed. He's a believer. He believed this stuff. Sometimes you would entertain angels unaware when you help people and stuff, you know. And he stopped and he just asked the guy flat out, are you an angel? Can you imagine what this guy's thinking? I mean, this guy was scary looking. He's a big orangutan. He was like probably 6'4". He had a Prince Valiant haircut. You know, he's like from the 60s, and he wore all the biker paraphernalia. And, you know, this guy pulls up, are you an angel? You know what you're going to think. Holy crap, it's a leather fairy. He probably wants to rape me. And I go, no, I'm a dude. Oh, okay. And then he said, I know you're not lying because angels can't lie. If you were an angel, you'd have to tell me. Well, that's some pretty good logic there, Sparky. Yeah, if you were an angel, you'd have to tell me. And Ben just said, you're not. I know you're not lying. And then he took off and he didn't give the guy a freaking ride. I guess he's being efficient. He's only going to help them if they're angels. People, gotta love them. How do you like being a family with somebody like that? Well, you are. If you're a Christian, he's part of your family too. Deal with that. I had to. That guy really got on my nerves sometimes. But that was probably mostly my fault. It's funny I'm like that. Anyway, that's enough for this one. Uncle Bilby signing out. I'm not going to sing anymore. Not in this video.